Can we engineer nature? It's one of the most profound questions we can ask. And historically, our answer has been a very confident yes, absolutely. For centuries, human hubris has driven us to look at natural geography, winding rivers, vast floodplains, dense wetlands, and basically just see a problem that needs fixing. But what happens when our engineering ambitions collide with the unstoppable forces of the natural world? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to look at the spectacular consequences of trying to force nature into a straight line and how modern engineering is finally learning to collaborate with the environment instead of fighting it. To really wrap our heads around this, we're looking at one of the most fascinating case studies in environmental management out there, the Kissimmee River Restoration Project down in Florida. Think of this as a massive, landscape-scale story of a monumental mistake followed by an equally monumental redemption. It's kind of the perfect example of what happens when we try to aggressively manage river flooding and how we eventually have to shift from traditional, rigid methods to sustainable ones, just to save our ecosystems and, honestly, ourselves. Let's jump right into Section 1, Taming the Kissimmee River. Okay, let's dive into this timeline to truly grasp the sheer scale of this project. We have to travel back to the 1960s. The mindset back then was simple: control nature at all cost to protect adjacent land and rapidly drain floodwaters. Between 1962 and 1971, engineers went all in on hard engineering techniques. The original Kissimmee River was this beautifully complex, 165-kilometer meandering waterway that naturally twisted and turned through the Florida landscape. But in under a decade, engineers completely channelized it. They transformed it into a 90-kilometer-long, perfectly straight, 10-meter-deep drainage canal. They literally ironed out the river. Just crazy. Which brings us to Section 2, the ecological fallout. Now, what's really interesting to see here is the sheer scale. From a purely mechanical standpoint, sure, that straight canal was a success at moving water quickly away from the land. But, well, you can't just delete a river's natural geography without paying a massive price. And the damage was absolutely heartbreaking. We're talking 14,000 hectares. By straightening the river and stopping those natural flooding cycles, up to 14,000 hectares of vital wetlands completely dried up and were lost. And remember, wetlands aren't just muddy swamps. They are literally some of the most biologically diverse and crucial ecosystems on the planet. And in the blink of an eye, they were just gone. The loss of those wetlands had an immediate, devastating, cascading effect on wildlife. The region experienced a staggering 92% reduction in the population of wintering waterfowl. 92%. Only 8% remained. The birds that relied on those natural habitats to survive the winter simply had nowhere to go. This was a huge wake-up call, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that fighting natural geography with channelization was an absolute ecological disaster. Moving on to Section 3, reversing the damage through sustainable restoration. The near-total collapse of the ecosystem forced humans to realize their mistake, and it led to a massive paradigm shift. We realized we had to move away from destructive hard engineering, the straight drainage canals and rapid, forceful water movement, and fully embrace sustainable soft engineering. The goal now became to restore over 100 square kilometers of the river, working in harmony with nature by utilizing natural meandering paths and actively restoring those destroyed wetlands. It was finally time for a redemption arc. Let's move along and see how this builds step by step. How do you actually unstraighten a river? Well, step 1 is dechannelization. This involved the aggressive removal of artificial structures and literally backfilling approximately half of that massive flood control canal with dirt. By blocking that artificial path, step 2 naturally kicks in, reestablishing the natural flow. You're forcing the water back into its historical, natural meandering river channels. And as that happens, step 3 follows right along. As the water returns to its historical bounds, the wetland restoration begins. Let's look at Section 4, nature's natural sponge and wetland functions. And this brilliantly illustrates our main concept. The results of this sustainable strategy have been breathtaking, successfully creating over 11,000 hectares of new, thriving wetlands. But here's the thing. These wetlands aren't just pretty to look at. They function mechanically as a massive natural sponge. During heavy rains, instead of a straight canal violently rushing a massive peak of water downstream and causing severe flooding, these wetlands actually absorb those floodwaters. They soak it all up like a sponge and then release it slowly over time. By working with natural geography, we actually protect infrastructure and reduce the intensity of downstream flood peaks way more effectively and safely than a concrete canal ever could. But the benefits of this soft engineering don't stop at flood control. First off, these re-established wetlands perform a natural nutrient filtration function. They literally clean the water, significantly decreasing heavy nutrient loads, like nitrogen and phosphorus, from ever reaching downstream bodies like Lake Okeechobee. On top of that, by saving the ecosystem, you're directly boosting the local economy. The region is now seeing enhanced revenues from ecotourism, and the revitalized habitats strongly support recreational hunting and fishing. So it's a huge win for nature and a massive win for human communities. Finally, Section 5, the Curitiba Urban Model and Adaptive Infrastructure. Now you might be wondering, what about where most of us live? What about cities? Well, we can take this exact same work with nature philosophy and apply it directly to densely populated urban spaces. And nowhere has done this more brilliantly than Curitiba in Brazil. So the crucial point is right here when we compare strategies. When facing urban flooding, traditional methods usually involve pouring concrete canals, defending buildings with expensive hard engineering, and pretty much letting developers build anywhere. But Curitiba? They took the adaptive model. Instead of concrete canals, they preserved natural drainage areas and turned them into city parks. Instead of defensive hard engineering, they created adaptive infrastructure, like sports and leisure facilities right in flood zones. And instead of building anywhere, they strictly zoned low-lying areas as totally off-limits. Let's dive a little deeper into their specific techniques, because they are absolutely fascinating. By preserving natural floodplains, they allow the rivers to swell safely during heavy rains. Their strict land use zoning prevents property damage and saves lives by simply keeping buildings out of harm's way to begin with. Plus, they heavily utilize afforestation, basically extensively planting trees in these parks to intercept rainfall and drastically reduce overland runoff. And what about the buildings that were already built way too close to the rivers? Well, they didn't build giant concrete walls to protect them. Instead, they adaptively converted them into leisure and sports facilities that can occasionally flood without causing a major economic disaster. It's brilliant. Both the Kissimmee River in Florida and the city of Curitiba in Brazil bring us back to one central, guiding philosophy for the future of human infrastructure. What happens when the environment is used rather than changed? We've seen firsthand that fighting nature with hard engineering usually leads to ecological and economic ruin. But when we take a step back, observe the natural sponges and floodplains around us, and build our systems to adapt to those natural rhythms, we don't just survive, we thrive. So the next time you see a flooded street or a perfectly straight concrete river, ask yourself, are we fighting the environment or could we be using it? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.